Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We're here April 5th, 2024. And we're here for another pre-market prep session, going over the important news, notes, analysis, trade ideas that will be key to closing out this week strong in markets, getting on the same page as them, making sure that we are kind of adjusting our trajectory based on which way the current takes us and which way the wind is blowing us, because after all we're doing is hopping on the back of big money and taking advantage of those moves. So, as always, we're here to get 1% better, right? Close the gap a little bit between where we are, where we want to be. In order to, be the person that we want to be, you have to create habits and execute on habits that person has, right? So this is part of that, executing on those habits that who we want to be executes, and they do so effortlessly, right? The only way that we get to that point is if we start to do them, because we don't just magically wake up at 30. Oh, we got a rogue curl back here. We don't just magically wake up at 30, wake up at 40 and say, oh, okay, now suddenly I have this aching desire to invest successfully. You never have that, right? These are all skills, and this is all momentum that you cultivate, and you breathe into it, and you breathe life into it, and you protect it, right? It's like a fire. In order to keep that fire going, it takes consistency, feeding it, curating it. And that's part of what this session is. So I'm happy to be here, happy to finish out this week strong and to dive into what we got going on today. So our top news here, jobs watch. There could be another dilemma on the table for the Federal Reserve if the U.S. labor market surprises with some extreme figures for March. That's not the base case expected by economists, but anything is possible, especially given recent figures. Now, current estimates predict the non-farm payrolls report to be released at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to show that the U.S. economy gained 212,000 jobs last month, down from the 275K level seen in February. The consensus would exceed the 191,000 average in the 5 months leading up to the pandemic, but it's also less than the average monthly gain of 230K over the prior 12 months. Now, in terms of a snapshot, central policymakers are looking for a Goldilocks scenario where conditions are neither too hot nor too cold, but have just the right temperature. As long as payroll additions stay at levels of around 200K, the unemployment rate remains between 3 to 4%, and wage growth continues to moderate. Everything should be on track to achieve a soft landing. However, recently things have been coupled with sticky inflation readings and strong growth in gross domestic product, resulting in a cautious stance by the Fed in deciding when to initiate interest rate cuts. On Wednesday, Chair Jerome Powell reiterated that he doesn't expect, quote, that it will be appropriate to lower our policy rate until the central bank is confident that inflation is on a sustainable path to 2%. Note that the FOMC is guiding for 3 rate cuts later this year, according to March's median projection. There is still some hesitation on how quickly the cuts will come to fruition, as mentioned by Neil Kashkari, the black sheep, though others are more optimistic about the outlook, like the Fed's Loretta Mester and Austin Goolsbee, who also gave speeches for a big week for Fed Speak. So for anybody who missed it, right, SPY dropped, $12 yesterday. Nice, fat, big red day to kind of coast us into the end of the week. And it was really due to kind of the off-putting rhetoric by a few Fed members, mainly Neil Kashkari, right? So we talked about this in Q&A, no need to dive deeply into it, but, if you're kind of joining us from the sidelines, Kashkari is a guy who has a history more so than others of speaking out and really, airing inflammatory rhetoric, even though what he has to say really doesn't matter. This guy is not a main, he cannot control policy unilaterally. He is one group amongst a whole host of, voices, right? One voiced amongst the whole Fed. He's not Powell. So the market's reaction yesterday really is likely filed under the tab of over-exaggeration, because, this guy is just kind of a loudmouth who every year and a half, right, just kind of has these outbursts that do move markets. Now, we went over the fact that there were a number of Fed speakers yesterday during the pre-market prep session, so we were aware of that. That's great. We were on top of that. It's not like we were caught off guard as much as everyone else, right? A lot of people are looking around, what happened, right? And they can't pinpoint it. When you're aware of what's going on every day throughout the week because you know what's on the economic calendar, which we go over here on the pre-market prep session, then you're aware of this stuff. So right when, things start happening, it's like, oh, what happened? What do I remember from this morning is going on? Oh, a ton of Fed members speaking. Let me go check and see if anybody said anything spicy. Sure enough, he said something spicy, right? He's like, oh, 3 cuts. I'm in favor of 2. Actually, I don't even know if we should cut this year. And it's like, okay, man, like you're not the head guy here. You're not the head honcho. So why are you mixing things up, right? Stirring the pot. So that was the lowdown on yesterday and what was happening. I know there's probably tons of people on Twitter that are like, see, we told you that, the Illuminati is crumbling now that P. Diddy has been on the run, and that's why markets are starting to drop. I'm sure they are, right? Run over in the corner with your tinfoil hat, and let's get back to things that actually matter, like quantitative analysis, In terms of what else to watch, on top of mind are the sizable downward revisions in headline job creation in recent months. Minus 43K in December and minus 124K in January. Chris Lau, investing group leader of DIY Value Investing, notes that the magnitude of the revision for February cannot be estimated as, quote, the data collection has a sampling error. Seeking Alpha analyst Damir Tokic also points to the divergence between the household survey, which warns of a rapidly slowing labor market, and the headline establishment survey, which still indicates a tight job market. Now, in terms of us being on the move, commodity craze is the inflation trade back on. Cocoa, gold, and now oil. Brent crude has topped $90 a barrel for the first time since October as tensions in the Middle East threaten to boil over into a wider regional war. It follows reports that Israeli embassies have been placed on high alert amid growing threats of an attack by Iran, while the White House has threatened policy changes, quote, with respect to Gaza. Crude also found support from tightening supplies and signs of strong U.S. fuel demand, raising the odds of a surge in gas prices ahead of the busy summer driving season. And guess who's going to be making money off of that? Same people that have been making money off of it so far. That's us, right? The stock options made easy community. That's where we're in, right? You don't subscribe here, and you're not subscribed to the group for my musical talents or my proclivities when it comes to composition, but we're on top of these and we're positioning these well before they start making headlines, and that's an amazing feeling, right? So gas prices go up, cool. My account was going up before the gas prices were going up. Offset it, right? I can't control what's happening in Israel or what's happening in the White House or what's happening at the pump, but I can control what I do and how I respond. So what I'm going to do is constantly kind of gear myself toward enabling myself with skills in order to compensate, enabling myself with the mindset and the ability, right, to execute. And that's all you can do, right? Remain readily aware of what's happening. Make sure that you are here for sessions like this that make you aware of what's going on in the world. And then empower yourself with the skills in order to respond, and then make sure you do respond. Those are the 3 things, right? Those are the 3 things that you can control, that you can, have control over, and everything else you don't worry about. I can't worry about what Kashkari does when he gets up and he decides he wants attention, right? But I can decide about how I respond. And when you focus on that, a lot of the other pain and anxiety and circular thoughts, they melt away. So it's not an absence of them, but the ability for you to work in spite of them is what we're looking for. Global news, gold standard, looking to mitigate the effects of the local dollar's collapse. Zimbabwe is expected to launch a new currency today called the ZiG that will be backed by gold reserves and other precious metals. After a tour of the central bank's vaults, President Emerson, not even going to try his last name, said the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe had enough gold, reported to be equivalent of 2.5 tons, to back the new currency. The current Zimbabwe's dollar value has plummeted more than 70% this year, with many Zimbabweans preferring to use the U.S. dollar, and it remains to be seen whether this time around things will be different. In terms of media news, password crackdown. Coming shortly after a win against the activist investor Nelson Peltz, Disney CEO Bob Iger laid out a plan on how to get the company to become a growth business amid a focus on profitability. Among the changes will be a former crackdown on password sharing for Disney Plus, with Iger pointing to Netflix as the gold standard in the streaming industry. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we talked about when Netflix did it, that it would likely end up being widely adopted by these other streaming platforms. So that's where we're at. which is annoying, right? As somebody who was thriving off of the Netflix accounts and Disney accounts of, his family and related family, but an extended family, talking about like Bailey's family and stuff like that. But no fun here, right? Disney probably going to give us the boot soon. I think we're on her family's Disney, so we'll have to get our own Disney, I'm sure that Disney is more than provided for a number of months of subscription in terms of their option contracts return for us. So I don't feel as mad about it, right? Again, I can't control whether Disney makes myself personally pay that, whatever it is, $15 a month or something, $8 a month, $20 a month. I have no idea. But I can make sure that Disney stock is paying me much more than that over the course of 2024. And they would have to make that subscription fee quite significant to catch up to the profits that they've been able to distribute to me and to the wider Stock Options Made Easy community. So Disney wants a little bit back. That's fine, man. That's fine. You've done a lot for us. In terms of today's markets, in Asia, Japan down 2%, Hong Kong flat, China closed, India flat. In Europe at midday, London we're down 1%, Paris down 1.4, Frankfurt down 1.4, the Dow up 0.2, S&P up 0.3, Nasdaq up 0.4, crude up 0.2, gold up 0.2, Bitcoin up 1.1 to 67K. Today's economic calendar, we got non-farm payrolls data at 8:30 a.m. We've got a few more members of the Fed speaking today, Collins, Barkin, and Logan. I've never seen, any of them have any kind of outrageous outbursts. So I'm not anticipating that from them. Kashkari, this has happened before. It was a number of years ago, but he did the exact same thing. And for a while, it was his name would get mentioned, and I was like, hey, Powell's not speaking, but Kashkari is speaking, so pay attention. It kind of matters. But it didn't matter for a while, and then I kind of stopped saying his name. And now I'm sure he's getting what he wanted, which is for us to fear him. And now when he's on the schedule, we've got to, clinch. In terms of what else is happening, we've got our rapid fire stock news rundown here. Goldman lists stock winners of Republican policy if Trump wins. EV reset, Ford delays SUV plans, expands hybrid offerings. Activist targets Larry Fink's dual role at BlackRock, ticker BLK. J&J to acquire Shockwave Medical, ticker Schwab, SWAV, for $13 billion. Will Ellison-led bid for Paramount require new equity? Fed's Kashkari, no legitimate use case for Bitcoin in over a decade. No one cares, man. Shut up. Shut up and go home. Alphabet, ticker Google, considers takeover for HubSpot, ticker Hubs. Whose radar has that been on? Oh, ours. Oh, I didn't even realize that. Union Chief says Nippon U.S. Steel, whose ticker is X, deal would need to be redone. So we've got more regulatory issues here. Boeing and Airbus said to explore way to split Spirit Aerosystems. And then Trump Media, ticker DJT, dips after former president goes to bat for Truth Social. So that wraps us up for the this week. This week's pre-market prep sessions. First week of April. Right, and it's been a good one, not one without its curveballs. We've had precious metals pay us like GLD and FCX yesterday. We've had, a number of different companies in different sectors pay us. We got tech with Dell. We had, SPY intraday 2 days ago. So there are a number of different things that are playing out well. And then there are things that don't play out well, like yesterday getting smacked in the face with our SPY calls as SPY was approaching breakout, and then Kashkari wanted to, sound off and mouth off. At the end of the day, the great thing is that our wins are much larger than our losses, right? When you look at your FCXs reaching weekly price target and returning hundreds of % profit, or Dell, right, returning hundreds of % profit. I'm fine with taking that, right? I'll take that, and then I'll take the L's, because the L's should be around 40% each and every time, right? Our cut level, whereas the dubs are, 80, 100, 200, 400, right? 600%. Going to take those dubs every time. The losses will come, and they will be from things sometimes that we cannot predict or that we can't account for. But as long as we adhere to the system, we make sure that we're A-okay. So let's operate in patience today. Make sure that we're on the right, rhythm with markets, and have a great day. Close out this week strong. Everybody have a great weekend, a safe weekend. And I just realized that Alexa has been slacking and hasn't had on my other lights, just the curtain lights. So I'll make sure she gets onto it. Maybe she needs a nice weekend off anyways. You guys have a great weekend. I'll see you back here on Monday for our next Premarket Prep session. Have a good one.